95.7 The Fan presents In the Loop with John Lopez and Reggie Atatula.
You didn't think we were going to come to the FM and not bring the intro, as it's referred to. Of course, sitting in with us is the man, B. Scott from Hiram Clark, if you don't know. Brandon Kyle Scott, a Houston man through and through. He covers all these sports for us. He'll be out there, Texans, Rockets, Astros. He is smart, he is funny, he's insightful, and that's why you always want to know B. Scott's thoughts, and we get those to you right here.
So despite the fact that the Texans did not perform up to the level last night, like that was not overall up to the standard, nobody would look at that and say, hey, that's what you want to be about. And I don't think that they did that, right? Like they would tell you that. Despite that, I felt like there was mostly good things to take away from last night's game. Forget the score and forget even the overall picture of it not looking good in the end, right? And I think that that's fair. The very beginning of it, there was enough positive stuff for me to take away from it and feel good about the night. And so my main thought is I don't want us to lose our minds about the negative. And I'm not saying that you guys are, just the general fan base. Let's not lose our minds over some of the negative things that we saw last night, even if we want to call them out and break them down and talk about them. Let's just keep everything within its proper context. And I like how y'all started the show. I loved how y'all started the show with the offensive line, even though, hey, sorry, FM audience, that it just so happens that the most interesting thing going on with the Texans right now is the remade offensive line. So y'all got to truck through this with us. But the offensive line, I thought, and getting the first look at the first team offensive line was valuable for us as a fan base, valuable for them as a team. And I didn't think it went terrible at all. So, like, I felt good about watching Keelan Rutledge and Wyatt Teller, double team blocks in the run game and how they looked honestly in the passing game and pass protection as well. And Keelan Rutledge is, I think, a big part of this offseason and going into this season. Him as a rookie playing a position that he didn't play in college much or really at all. So, like, that, the first test case of that, even if we want to go with the caveat of this is not the best competition, this is kind of just really a glorified scrimmage, even within the context of that, you saw enough good things to feel good about. And that's just starting with the one rookie. How about the rookie class overall? And I say rookie class, let me include an undrafted free agent in that as well. But like rookies overall looking competent, looking promising, looking like they could at least fill some kind of role for you, whether we're talking about Keelan Rutledge as a starter or somebody on the back end of the roster. I felt like it was overall positive for some of the young players that could fill out this team.
I'm glad you brought that up because I've always, this goes back decades, I've always looked at preseason games as two games. The first game is whether it's starters or frontline players, how are they performing against, the other frontline players? How are the guys that are going to be integral in this offense or defense? How are they performing while they are on the field? That's game one. And then there's game two. Game two is, what are the players that may or may not make this team? What are the kickers, the punters, the special teams, all these things that are sort of up in the air. So if you separate it like that, like the first game was, how many plays was that first drive on offense? And then the first, the defense came out a little bit. That's game one. Game one, to your point, was pretty good. I'm not going to say it was great. It wasn't. But you had and we talked about it in the first segment, pretty good blocking in the run game. They had a couple of glitches here and there, no big runs.
Probably about 9-10 snaps.
Yeah, pretty good pass protection. And it was typical stuff when Davis Mills had to float around in the pocket. That happens in every NFL game. So the first game, some of the specialists, were doing okay, and Jared Wayne in this case was one of the, frontline players, and he had a good – so the first game – I think they did pretty good. Second game, then we can talk. Maybe there were some ups and downs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to play for you D'Amico Ryans talking after the game. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. My bad, Fig. I told you we would. But this is cut 7 here. This was D'Amico Ryans being asked about or talking about the style of play that he wanted to see from his team. And let me preface it. He didn't seem all that excited about it.
The style of play that I wanted to see us play physical. right? And I did not see that the entire game. There were some glimpses of us playing physical, but the Chargers, they out-physicaled us the entire game, right? So it was not our brand of football. When I speak of playing our style, that's a physical brand of football, and that was not up to par tonight.
When D'Amico said that, when I heard him say that last night, I was like, that's not how I felt. And then I stopped for a second. I went, oh, he's a football coach. And so he's coaching all these guys as evenly as possible. You love it, right? That's what you want. Me, as somebody who's looking as a radio host and looking towards what this Texas team will do, I recognize that I have all of this on a scale, as you're talking about. How the first team offensive line played matters way more than how the defenders that are playing in the fourth quarter of this game, like those things barely even register for me, right? Like I'm not looking at how Stephen Hall is playing, with all due respect, the cornerback who wears number 4. I'm not looking at him and going, oh man, and did you know that was his number? Did you know?
No, legit. We were in the suite.
You mentioned it.
And he made a play. And I looked at Lopez and I said 41. I think the announcer said Stephen Hall, whatever it was, and I said I don't know who that is. I've been at training camp. I've looked at the roster day in and day out.
But D'Amico
didn't
does.
know who it was.
And so D'Amico is looking at that like that's not the standard. I'm looking at that. I'm going, that doesn't really impact the standard I'm thinking about, because I'm thinking about a 53-man roster, maybe who you on your practice squad. Hall's not there for me. And so if we it depends on how you wanted to grade it. If we grade it that way, I think I was very happy with this, because even the defense kind of just allowing the Chargers to move down the field, all those players are dudes that we're talking about depth. And the way that I saw it, and we'll talk more about this with specifics, was dudes that I go, they kind of held their own. And that's what you're asking for if you're asking for like a cornerback 4 to have to play. You're like, hold your own. Don't just give up the booty, right? And I think that all those guys did things that felt like they hold their own and they don't just give up all the gold, so to say.
See, that's interesting, because I actually did see where D'Amico was coming from. Like, I actually kind of agreed with him, because watching the game really throughout, honestly, even the early part of it, things just felt way too easy, I thought, for the Chargers for the most part. They had a couple of drives where it was that were pretty quick, but for the most part, it just felt like little resistance. And one thing that they really weren't getting early was any kind of pass rush of any kind. They did kind of get the ball out quick a couple of times. There was some quick game involved in that as well. But I just did not see enough. Like, this is supposed to be an imposing defense, like a one that's like, they talk about swarm and just sort of have a little bit more of a imposing mentality. And they just kind of seem to be out there. You even mentioned like holding their own. That's how I would describe it.
They don't want to just hold on.
And that to me is not really good enough. Like, especially if you're going to be the football coach, and it's also not like the brand of football that I've grown myself accustomed to watching over the last couple of years, and last year especially. But even with that, I was like, you know what? I'll sacrifice that for, Marlon Klein up the seam.
Yeah.
I'll sacrifice that for feeling like, oh, you know what? We talk about running back depth, but Noah Whittington as an undrafted free agent might actually be somebody that can not just make this team, but help you a little bit, right? And then we talked about the linemen earlier. I thought Caden McDonald on the defensive side, he played a lot, and I saw some good stuff, and I saw some not so good stuff.
Agreed.
Which is, and so it was a mixed bag. And you're like, okay, well, you'll take that, moldable clay, they're coaching points. You're going to work with them. But overall, I'd sacrifice maybe it not looking like the exact brand of football that I'm used to for feeling good about some of the younger players.
And I love that D'Amico Ryans has that standard from 1 to 90 on this roster. That's the type of coaching I want to hear. But I'm also going to come logically and go, what you're talking about, the standard and the brand of like football that you're accustomed to, roster construction in general in the NFL, how many guys are actually bringing you those are the impact playmakers? All those guys didn't play last night for the Texans.
Exactly.
So, if any of these guys are in here, their whole job is do enough so that those guys can impact the game, whether it's Will Anderson Jr. or Daniil Hunter or Sheldon Rankins or Tommy should I keep going? Or Derek Stingley or Kamari Lassiter or Kalen Bullock or Zeke. Should I keep going?
I actually did this exact exercise earlier today. I'm like, how many of their top players didn't play? And I stopped counting once I got to like 15.
All of them.
So if no less than 15 of your top players didn't play, and this kind of goes back to my earlier point and my main thought here, is like not losing our minds, and I'm glad Reggie kind of brought us back there. It's like, okay, and this is the perfect context. This did not look great, but this isn't the actual team itself. right? Like you can acknowledge both things.
But also, I do think D'Amico was, because just the way he's a football coach, I do think he was disappointed. I do think he believes they were not as physical as the Chargers, and I think that's a fair assessment from what I saw.
Yeah.
But I think it was also a little performative. I think he loved the fact that he could go there. I think he loved the fact that he goes, guys, starting today or tomorrow or whenever, like, we that is not the type of physical team we want to be, and all the starters are saying that we weren't even out there. He doesn't care.
Well,
he wants to send that message.
Are you truly a good coach if you don't coach the guys on the back end of the roster?
Exactly.
Like if you don't coach literally everybody that's on the team up until the point that they're not. So like I can appreciate that aspect of it, even if like as not the coach, I can look at it and say, you know what, I'm good with again Marlon Klein and Lewis Bond with one of the more exciting 2-yard, 3-yard returns that you'll ever find, and feeling good about some of those things, right? Like I'm not gonna get worked up about the Texans not looking like the Texans when Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter and Derek Stingley Jr. and Kamari Lassiter. Reggie just already named everybody. Like when those guys do not play and the Texans don't look like the Texans, I can handle that. But I also do have to say, they ain't really look like the Texans. Like,
right. That's why I think D'Amico loved it.
Yeah, for sure.
From the 832, or sorry, the 346. Nope, wrong one. The 703. I was going to get there eventually. They said, Reggie, you talk like none of these top players can get hurt. No, I get that, right? But unless all of them get hurt, I'm not going to trip off of it because, again, right, if there's one of them that gets hurt, there's going to be someone that steps in. And as long as they are not getting out here torched, then we should be able to make this go. Yeah. That's ultimately my point.
Well, and I do think that it's fair though for like people who want to be critical of the game. Like to me, the most polarizing thing you could say about the team from the game is that maybe the depth of the team was exposed. Yeah. Like I think a lot of people went into the game feeling like, hey, this is a much deeper team than either it used to be or maybe than we were expecting. And then after the game, maybe not feeling that way. But I also feel like that's okay after preseason game number 1 for that to still be a little bit of an open question. And at least you do still have all of those players that we just listed earlier.
And some of those positions, we're not even talking about one deep. Think defensive tackle where it's Rankins, Togiai, Hall, that's in there as well. And then who's the other one? Oh, Mario Edwards.
Yep.
You went 4 deep on defensive tackles where it's just like, oh, ain't none of them there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for me.
A lot of these guys are not going to, let's just say it, a lot of these guys are just not going to make the team.
Yeah.
Because they're not good enough. So, and I think those things are going to be related, right? Like these guys are not going to make the team because they don't play close enough to the brand of football and the standard that D'Amico Ryans is trying to set.